Alright, welcome back to Little Shop of Nerds, everyone. My name is Mike.
I'm Julia.
And welcome back. Alright. Now, our last week's hint was...
Please give us your name.
Alright, today we are going to talk a little bit of a serious moment on this episode today because we just watched an emotional docuseries called Quiet on Set. Now, this is a documentary series that had all the cast members who played on any Nickelodeon show from the late 90s to the mid 2000s to today. This is all due to Dan Schneider. Dan Schneider pretty much made everything that made Nickelodeon famous for live action shows and comedies. And we are going to talk about some serious stuff and hopefully
We're just gonna
do anything.
We're just gonna talk about it. So, we know that this came out a couple weeks ago. So I mean, we might be a little late to the game here on this, but we're going to talk about it now because I mean, this is something that we should talk about since we are nerds, and this does affect our childhood in some way.
And yours maybe too.
Yeah, so if you guys aren't familiar, which you guys should be familiar with Dan Schneider, he was one of the writers for All That. I think he created it, or he was at least one of the writers. He was like the head writer.
Writer, producer,
Yeah.
Whatever, right?
Yeah, so he also went on to become the creator of iCarly, Drake and Josh, The Amanda Show, Zoe 101,
that thing,
Victorious.
That's like after my time.
Yeah, Victorious is after my time. I never watched Victorious. I did watch some of iCarly. And I did watch some Drake and Josh because I really had a crush on Drake Bell.
I think every girl in the early 2000s did.
I did. I never could get into the Amanda Show, so I never watched that. But I did watch some All That when I had access to cable.
Same here.
So so it starts off with you're seeing all these people who used to be cast members for All That.
Cast members, writers.
There was a couple writers.
Directors.
Yeah, so the two writers that they brought in were the only two female writers that they had on staff. And they were told that they had to share, basically, so they had to share a salary.
Yes.
And, which is really odd because, like this, I mean, this is the early 90s. But still, in the early 90s, I would think that women's equal rights would have been a little bit better than what they would have been earlier, in the century or whatever.
It should have been, but in my opinion, writers shouldn't be sharing a salary.
Well, I mean, none of the men writers were. Just the two female writers.
Well, that's what I think is a problem with. Writers should be getting paid separately. Yeah. But and if they were because if they were female, that's not right.
Yeah. So there was a lot of shady shit that was going on with that, anyways. Because one of the female writers, she did bring up something where one of the other female writers, she threw a pitch out there, something about high school, and Dan Schneider basically looked at her and said, "Hey, lean over this table and repeat it like you're being sodomized." And she did it. And so then when the interviewer tried to ask that specific writer about it, she basically said she didn't want to talk about it. Because it had to have been traumatizing.
It was. There was even... People say he liked to pull pranks and whatever, or dares.
Mm-hmm.
He dared one of the female writers to eat, ice cream, but I think it was... Forget which size. It could have been a quart, bigger quart, whatever it was.
Oh, it was, I think, a pint.
A pint. That's what it was.
It might have been a pint of ice cream, and she had to eat it within, like, a half hour or something like that.
And he was going to pay her. because since she wasn't getting paid that much, so
She
did.
She did it.
But here's the thing, he never paid her, and he had another dare, and he asked her if she wants to do it, and she said, I'll put it on your tab.
No. There was a fly, and he says, "Hey, whoever can kill this fly, I'll give you money." And then that's when she said, "What, are you going to add it to your tab?" Because he never did pay her for eating the ice cream.
And he gets pissed and tells her, "How dare you say that? How you say I don't pay off my debts?" I'm like, dude, you didn't pay off. You make a bet, you pay it.
Yeah. So, obviously, we're not going in order of everything that happened in the series or that happened in this documentary because there was a lot that happened.
Yes, there.
So we're only going to touch on a few things, and later on in this episode, we will touch on the one thing that I really want to talk about. But everybody's also talking about this. So we want to get the other stuff out of the way first before we talk about that. And I'm pretty sure you all probably know what we're going to talk about.
And we might talk about some stuff that maybe wasn't on the series.
Yeah, there was a few things. So eventually the writers do end up quitting.
Yes.
And one of the female writers did call the Screenwriters Guild and said, "Hey, is it normal for writers to be sharing salaries?" And they were like, "No, you should be getting your own salary." And apparently they contacted Dan Schneider, and Dan Schneider started calling everybody trying to figure out who it was that ratted him out. But we think that he knew who it was, but he couldn't prove it because she said, "No, I didn't do it." They both did eventually leave the all that.
Which they should have done, and I'm glad they did, because...
I mean, I could understand because they both said that this was the opportunity that they were looking for.
And that's what I understand, too. But right now, in my opinion, everything that happened with SAG and everything, with all that, you should really respect your writers more.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, hey, I'm glad they got out of that. I'm glad they did. They should have done that, and I get it because it was their big break. They needed the work.
Yeah.
But truth be told, Dan should not have been doing that in the first place.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get into the cast members now. So they did bring in some old cast members from all that. They brought in, I don't know names, but they did bring in one girl, and she was the one that introduced Dan to Amanda Bynes. And she said that as soon as they discovered Amanda and they started bringing her in, she said that she did feel like that she was being pushed aside because then she started to get too old to be in the show.
Yep. Because
you're only on the show for maybe a few years. So you're anywhere from the ages of, I think, 11 to 16. And so it's only just, you're lucky if you do get 3 years in there.
And it's true. And it actually is true. And she, she used to be Dan's favorite.
Yeah, because he was the one that was going to pitch an idea with her name on it. But instead, when Amanda Bynes came in, then she became the favorite, and then that's how we got the Amanda Bynes show. And the girl that was originally supposed to get the show with her name on it, I think her name was Crystal.
Yes.
She actually found out a year after she had left all that's what was going. That Amanda had gotten her own show with her name on it.
And this is where the Amanda show, when Dan was doing the Amanda show, this is where he pretty much, I think, wanted her dad and mom out of the picture.
Well, let's not bring up Amanda Bynes yet. Let's talk about some of the other allegations before we talk about that. So when So they did bring in some black actors, and they have talked about how they felt discriminated against.
Yes.
Because one girl said that she knew she was to be the token black girl on set. She said she knew that that's what was going to happen, and she said that she felt weird about it, but she wanted to do the show, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
I meant to binge this again before we talked about it, but I just didn't get time to. So, my recollection might be a little fuzzy. But there were a couple of I think they brought on 3 former cast members, black cast members. And they had all said that they felt like that they weren't as close to Dan as their white counterparts were.
Yeah, and it was really true.
Yeah, and one of the male that they brought in, he said that he the way that he was treated on set is made him, like, the way that he treats racial, the way that race is portrayed now, or like how he handles it, how he was treated on set makes him, like, is the way that he treats it now, or has, how do I explain this? Just the way that he treats how race is now is how he dealt with it on set, or something like that.
Now, is this the guy that worked with Amanda Bynes, or is it the other guy?
That's the one guy that was in. It was because they brought in two black females and then the one black male.
Well, no, they brought in 2.
Did they bring in 2 black males?
Because I'm sorry, like I said, it's been a while since I seen all that. The one guy worked in the 90s with Amanda Bynes. The other one worked in the early 2000s.
Okay, so the one I'm talking about is the one that was in that game show. That X Factor game show.
Oh yes, that thing. Was that Dare show.
That's the guy that I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay, yes, he really mentioned how it was. He did have to fight racism. He thought this was also good because it was his big break to get out of the bad neighborhood.
Yeah, he wanted to get his family out of the hood, basically.
And he even said when they did the Dare show, Dare show, when they covered him in peanut butter and dogs licked him, he did not like it. Even the other cast members did not like doing this because they say they didn't want to. One guy did not want to be covered in worms. He did not want to be covered in peanut butter and licked by dogs. He said it was uncomfortable.
I mean,
inappropriate.
That would be that's probably the tamest of what happened, because somebody did have a scorpion put in their mouth, live scorpion.
Yes.
At that.
But it was one of those big scorpions that wasn't poisonous.
Yeah, but still,
it's still not.
Scorpions scare the hell out of me.
But these are kids. They shouldn't be doing these dangerous dares.
Yeah.
They need to do it with actual adults.
Yeah. So, but this guy, he was also talking about how, because there were, and I noticed this as the episodes went on, that Dan Schneider had a thing with a certain bodily fluid on people's faces. Yeah. He liked to mimic that. So he made this guy be this superhero with a big nose. I can't remember his name. But he had a big nose, and on his shoulders they had a phallic shaped, I think it was supposed to be a big giant nose, but it looked phallic shaped.
Wait, you said his name is Leon Fersen.
Was that him?
That was the late 2000s. Yeah, he mentioned how he had a big nose as a superhero,
Mm-hmm.
and how his shoulder, it looked like he was wearing a giant dick on himself.
Yeah, so that's why I was saying phallic shaped.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's him, Leon.
Okay. So he at one point he had to sneeze, and he sneezed on the girl or the woman that was in there, and it got snot all over her, and it kind of looked like a cum shot.
Yeah.
I probably can't say that word on YouTube, but I am. So deal with it.
Let's be careful of that.
But yeah, so it looked. Dan had there was a lot of things. So so then they bring in this girl named Brandy, and there was a guy that one of the production assistants was friendly with her.
A little too friendly.
They were emailing each other back and forth. Her mom was aware of it happening, that they were emailing, because she's like, oh, she's got a connection in this industry.
Yes.
And one day her daughter gets up out of the seat and she runs to her bedroom crying. Come to find out that this guy had sent a picture to Brandy of him completely naked and he's masturbating. And he sent that to her, to this little 10-year-old girl, and it just upset her, and she never wanted to go back. She, from what it sounds like, what her mother said, is that she never went into acting. Went back into acting. I do not know if, because they didn't talk to Brandy, so I don't know if she's still alive, if maybe she had, unalived herself or anything like that. I hope that she didn't. I hope that she's, happy.
Hopefully she's getting some better care.
Yeah, hopefully, if she's not into acting, maybe she found something else that she really enjoyed. And maybe she just didn't want to talk about her traumatic experience.
Which is actually,
rehashing it,
which is a good idea, and pretty much, it was, and like I said, there was a lot of stuff that was even worse. Like, there's a part with one of the actresses who played on Zoe 101. They did a little scene like she's eating some kind of goop candy. Yeah. And it squirts on Jamie Lynn Spears' face. And you know what that looks like.
Yeah. She was also 12 at the time that she was in this show, and she had to play a 16-year-old girl, and they were making her wear clothes that weren't really appropriate. Because apparently Dan Schneider had a thing. We think that he had a foot fetish because there was a lot of things with feet.
Yes, there was, and I know I saw some stuff like there was a part with Ariana Grande with a potato.
Yeah, she was squeezing the potato. The potato looked kind of phallic, and she's saying, "Give me your juice, Mr. Potato. Give me your juice."
And I'm like, "Oh my God!"
There was also where she was like leaning backwards on her bed, and she was trying to drink water, and she was getting it all over herself.
And I'm like, oh my God, no one's seeing this shit?
Yeah, so now let's get into Amanda Bynes.
Yes,
because talking about Amanda Bynes is going to lead us into what I really want to talk about.
Yes.
So, Amanda Bynes she was really close to Dan Schneider. She basically became his golden child.
Yes. Yes.
And he was making her do some skits that she probably shouldn't have really been doing.
No. And
like her being in a hot tub with fully grown dressed men. Like, she was wearing a bathing suit and the people in the hot tub with her were fully dressed. But that probably shouldn't have happened because she was underage.
No, they even did like a little character called Penelope Taint. As a kid, I didn't think twice about that name.
Yeah, like taint. When I thought of taint, I thought of like tainting something.
I did too.
Not the part on the male body.
No, and
apparently some adults don't even know.
Yes.
Because Nickelodeon had asked him, because he told them, he goes, hey, if anybody asks, do not tell them what it means. And an executive from Nickelodeon asked him, hey, what does taint mean? That doesn't mean anything inappropriate, does it? And he's like, oh, no. When really it was talking about that part on the male body. I think it's between the...
It's the skin between the... to the butt.
Anus.
And to the ball. Connected the butt into the balls.
Testicles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry to be technical on this. I know. I
mean, we can talk about male body parts as long as we're talking, using the actual words for them,
I don't know. I get the honorifics. I get why people use the medical term.
Yeah.
I get it.
I mean, it's educational.
I get it, but you ever realize, though, when you try to talk about the body parts, when they use the medical term, it feels more dirty, but when you say, like, balls or dick, it does not feel as dirty.
It's probably because we're used to it.
I think so.
Okay, well, we're getting off topic.
All right, back.
So, but yeah, so they made this character and gave her the last name for, that part of the male body.
Yeah, and they, like I said, they asked and pretty much shrugged it off. And what I heard, what was it, Amanda and her family they say they were controlling her.
Yeah, he was trying to help Amanda get emancipated from her family, from her parents, because I think what it was he saw that they had a tight rein on her, and she did not get emancipated from her family, though, from her parents. But Dan Schneider was trying to help them get her emancipated.
Yes, but here's also another thing that was really messed up on set. One of the actresses who worked on the Amanda show, I forget her name. She was pretty much the token.
Okay, token black girl.
Yep, and what was it? One day, because she even knew that Stan was not right in the head. Mm-hmm. She mentioned on her birthday, right? Someone ordered a big cake for her. And Dan got really upset because this is how much he cared for Amanda that was really inappropriate. She should not be getting a big cake like that. She's not the main attraction.
And I can understand why they got a big cake for her, though, because she was able to share it with people.
Yes, and you should be, in my opinion, with a cake, mm-hmm. If you're by yourself, like say with family, yeah, you get like a bigger cake. Even if it's like with friends and family, bigger cake. Mm-hmm. Everyone gets a slice. No one gets left out. But with Dan, it was people thinking they're going over his head, over his authority.
Yeah. Because I don't think that it would have been like... I don't think he would have thrown a fit if she had brought in the big cake. So... It makes me think that one of the crew members had ordered the big cake for her. But yeah, he got really upset for that. And then there was, I know that, okay, so let's actually go back to Brandy, because we didn't talk about him.
Yeah, we need to.
The guy, we need to put this to rest. So the guy that sent Brandy that image of him naked and masturbating, he did end up getting in trouble for pedophilia.
He did.
They did find they found images on his computer, and then they found bags of tokens that he had gotten from girls. Like there was one where he had panties from a 7-year-old girl in a bag. Brandy's token was a letter that she had wrote to him, or letters that she had written to him, and he did go to jail for this, for what happened. And when it happened, her mother didn't say anything because she says, if I say anything, I'm going to be viewed as a bad parent. And she didn't want to be viewed as a bad parent, and she didn't know what to do. And it wasn't until a detective reached out to her that she's like, yeah, this is what really happened. And you could tell in, like, the way that she's talking, she regretted not going to the police when it happened.
Yes, and
I don't think she knew how to handle it because she didn't know what would happen to her daughter if she did go to the police.
Yeah, and that's one thing. If people say if they do this, they think their kid's never going to act again or not going to get another job. But here's the thing: there was more stuff, and I'm glad that guy gets put away.
Yeah, there was another executive that ended up going to jail. I don't think he was an executive, but it was like another cast member who ended up going to jail because he also did the same thing.
Yes.
But
before we get into more, what was it? Brian Peck?
It was Brian Peck.
All right. Before we get into him, I do want to mention there was one part where the token black dude on the second All That show, the early 2000s one, they had his mom on there, and she saw what they were doing to him and stuff, or she even tried to tell him, hey, they need to stop this, they're going over time limit, they need to stop. But the crew says, hey, don't be that parent.
Yeah.
Don't be that parent, because you could cost your kid's job. And you know what happened, like, after the season was up? And
yeah, I think he only did like 2 seasons, and they didn't invite him back for a third.
Because
of his mom.
Because and here's the thing. She was actually doing something right.
Mm-hmm.
Because she knew something was wrong, but she also knows she had to stop because this is also her son's future. Mm-hmm. And also, people who work on these sets, you are fucking morons. If a parent's telling you that something's wrong, listen to them, you fuckos.
Like, there was they had a few crew members on there who were even saying things seemed weird. Like, Dan Schneider was, like, too close to the children and stuff like that.
He would work them overtime, which in Hollywood law, you're not supposed to make them, like, at a certain time. They need to go.
That's actually one of the reasons why Dan Schneider wanted Amanda Bynes to get emancipated from her parents, was so that he could work her more than what she was supposed to.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This is the difference between kid actors and adult actors. Adult actors doesn't mind to go over. They don't mind that because they want to make the movie great. But when it's kids, they're kids. They need sleep. They need rest. Because they can't put in this job that adults can do. But with Dan, it didn't care. It was like, I want this done. I want it to be great. But this is where his mind is rotten.
So, before we get into Brian Peck, Mike did send me a YouTube short of Gabriel Iglesias,
which he known as Fluffy or Martin. But anyways, yes, surprised to know Gabriel Iglesias was on All That.
But he was an adult at the time.
Yeah,
I think he was like roughly in his 20s at this time, 22, I think.
Yeah, I did not know he was on there.
I neither.
I did not know he was a cast member. But here's the thing. He was on there maybe, a season or so. Mm-hmm. And he got fired after one season because, he mentions, like, after, because, at the end, before the end, they do the musical guests. Mm-hmm. And they come and do their bow. Well, Gabriel Iglesias was in his costume or his...
Yeah, because he was wearing a wig that was covering his eyes.
And he hit a beam.
A steel beam.
A steel beam. They had to take him to the hospital because, he could...
It knocked him out.
It knocked him out. He had a concussion. And he... I think I saw a little longer one. They asked him, he's like... doing the questions. He says, do you know why you're wearing the dress? Paycheck.
Yeah.
But besides that, they took him to the hospital. And here's one thing. They did not care about his well-being. They cared about, we want you to sign this
Yeah, Nickelodeon executives came in and had him sign a paper saying that he wouldn't sue Nickelodeon for what happened.
And here's the thing. He's like, he didn't want to do it, but he knows he needs the job. He wants to be on there. So he signed it. But here's the thing. After that, he was fired.
Yeah.
And this is where he was starting out.
Yeah.
And this is also really shameful. And there's something with Jerry Trainer who played on iCarly, but
we'll get to that after we talk about
Brian Peck.
Brian Peck. So let's get into Brian Peck. This is what I really wanted to talk about. So I think Brian Peck was actually the one that was in contact with John William Gacy. Not John William Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy.
John Wayne Gacy. That's what it was. Yeah.
What was it? He was one of the coaching directors on the shows. He did Growing Pains. I think Boy Meets World. Mm-hmm. The second thing of all that with the early 2000 ones. Well, Cole Sullivan, one of the cast members in the early 2000s.
He was the white guy, the nerdy white guy with the glasses.
Yes. And he went to Brian Peck's house. They had a little party for the cast members, right? He goes in. He shows Kyle around the place. He shows him all his collections, and he saw this one picture of a clown. This clown was a self-portrait by John Wayne Gacy. And Kyle said, when he asked him, Brian Peck lighted up. He was glad to show it.
Yeah, he was like pen pals with him.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I'm like,
yeah, a little creepy.
And also other reasons why he didn't like being on the All That show, because all the stuff he had to do too. But besides that, he was a little creepy. Then it got worse with further productions, and like nothing happened to hit the Kyle.
Yeah, nothing happened to any of them. Nothing happened until Drake Bell.
And and
I really want to talk about this.
Oh, you want it?
I want to do it.
All right, I'm going to let her take the wheel. Jesus, take the wheel.
Okay, so Brian Peck was coaching Drake Bell. He's his acting coach. Drake Bell his manager was his father, okay? Drake Bell wanted to be an actor, and his father was like, okay, I'll let you do this. Like, he was in commercials. He was in a Nintendo commercial, I do believe, for a Zelda game, or a Mario game or something. Like, Drake Bell did that commercial. And he eventually got onto the Amanda Show. That's how he got started, was the Amanda Show.
Yes.
That seems to be how everybody started, was the Amanda Show.
Mm-hmm.
So eventually Dan comes to him and he's like, hey, I want to make, this show, where it's like two boys who become brothers, because their parents get married or whatever. So then he made Drake and Josh.
Yes.
So I do want to say that Josh Peck is not related to Brian Peck. There is no relation here.
Yeah, and even they have the last name spelled the same. But it's kind of like how it's people in Hollywood. Like you have Mario Lopez and George Lopez and Jennifer Lopez. All same last names spelled the same, but no relations.
Yeah. So there was nothing was happening. Josh Peck, I just want to make that clear. They're not related.
Yes.
So Brian Peck, okay, well, Drake's father could tell that there was something about Brian Peck that was not right.
And I want to put this on the spectrum here. I know you want to talk about it. I said this. Go ahead.
So Drake's dad had gone to like a crew member or something and had said, "Hey, I don't want my son around Brian Peck." And they basically told him that he was being homophobic.
And before I had to say something on this, if someone thinks it's inappropriate and you think, oh, because he's gay, you think he's homophobic? Don't play that card.
Yeah, so he basically, so then Drake's dad was like, okay, well, he would never let Drake out of his sight when he was with Brian Peck. When they would have acting together, like when he was doing his acting coaching or whatever, he was within sight because he did not want Drake to be alone with Brian Peck. Brian Peck eventually was like, no, this isn't cool. So he filled Drake's head and Drake's mom's head with lies that Drake's dad's stealing his money, he doesn't really care about him, all of this. And then eventually Drake fired his father because he believed everything that Brian told him. So his father, he was like, okay, well, I respect your decision. And his mother became his manager. And his father had told his mother, do not let Drake out of your sight. Do not leave him alone with Brian Peck. And then what does she do? She leaves him alone with Brian Peck. And do you know what happened to Drake when he was 15? He was sexually assaulted by Brian Peck. Brian Peck got what he wanted, and he continuously, like one time, like Drake was with his girlfriend, and he kept continuously calling Drake's phone, and he wasn't getting through to Drake. So then he started continuously calling his girlfriend's home, and he told Brian, like, on the phone, he's like, I'm gonna stay here with my girlfriend right now. So then his girlfriend's mom picked up the phone when he kept calling back, and she had words with him. And then she called Drake into the kitchen. She's like, hey, what's going on? And he didn't want to say. But I think that she had a feeling that she knew what was happening.
Yes.
And she called Drake's mom, and she's like, hey, I want to take Drake to our counselor tomorrow because I think that he could benefit from it. Because she could tell, like, it's so fucking weird that his girlfriend's mom could tell that there was something wrong, but his own mother could not tell that something was wrong? What the fuck? That's your son. You should have known that there was something going on because he's your son. You don't just think that everything, she should have listened. She should have listened to Drake's father. Because he had the right idea about Brian Peck. He was like, there's something not right. So it did eventually come out that he had sexually assaulted Drake. And you could tell that this was the first time that he had publicly talked about what had happened to him. And you could tell, like, he was so upset about what what happened. Now, like, you could argue and say, oh, he's an actor, so he can, he's probably acting. But the emotions that I saw on Drake's face felt very real. Everything about his story felt real.
I really believe his story right now because how can you really make up a story about that? I understand people make stories like that, but it's just all the emotions he was putting into was actually 100% real. And right now, like, even when they said they got him, his father is like, I'm glad he didn't get to you, but here's the thing, Drake didn't tell him, but he did. And this is one thing I think that the judge or the law needs to look at. They had every evidence on Josh Peck. They had
not Josh Peck, Brian Peck.
Sorry, Brian Peck. Brian Peck. They had a lot of evidence on Brian Peck. They had pictures. They had letters. They had everything to put this motherfucker in jail.
Do you know how many years? Do you know what he got? He got 16 months. 16 fucking months for assaulting a 15-year-old boy.
And you know what the fucked up part is? The people he coached, people who acted, came to his trial, defend him, saying he did not do this, but yet you don't want to see the between the fucking lines.
And then after Brian Peck got out of prison or jail or whatever, he went to Disney and worked on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody.
And he registered as a sex offender.
Like, there's just so much shit that was wrong with how this was handled, because he was 15 and no woman, no man, no child should ever have to be subjected to something like this. And a lot of people were sending, it's kind of like what they did when Danny Masterson was going to jail for what he did, and people were sending in like letters of recommendation and stuff like that. And these were sealed letters that they were able to get unsealed. And there were some big names on there. And one of the people that had signed it was the people who created The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And then they did reach out to a few people who had written these letters. And they said that they regretted writing letters like that because they honestly thought that he wasn't that type of person. And he really was.
He was. And this is what I'm saying. And people are saying, how with the thing with Drake Bell, with his, everything that's going on with him now, and people don't realize this. In Hollywood, people lie secrets. I'm starting to get off script here. George Reeves, right? People think it was a suicide, that they think he killed himself, but it could have been murder. This is one thing about Hollywood hides their dark secrets from the public. Hell, we don't know this shit. Why do you think Brian Peck deserves to be in jail longer? But no, there's some people behind the scenes or something greasing the pumps to keep him out of jail.
So one of the actors that had actually supported Brian Peck during this was James Marsden.
Oh boy.
He's the one name that I am kind of familiar with. It's not who I was thinking about, but I am familiar with his name. He was one of the guys that had actually supported Brian Peck when this all came out. Because, he was in the Tales of Princess Kaguya. Ah, shit. Well, that's going to ruin the Tale of Princess Kaguya for me now because of knowing what he did. So basically, Drake, when he went into the courthouse, he said that on Brian Peck's side, it was just full of people, executives, all of that. And on his side, it was only his mother and his brother. So there's all these people that were supporting this pedophile, which that's what he is. He is a fucking pedophile because he assaulted a 15-year-old boy. And all these people are on his side, supporting him, instead of being on Drake's side, supporting the victim, which they should have been on Drake's side.
Yes.
And so I can just imagine how his father felt when he found out that Drake was the one that was assaulted.
And he even says he felt bad, but he should have been there, but it was just they fall for Brian's web of lies. Mm-hmm. And this is, like I was saying, this guy should be put away for at least a life sentence. But this is what I'm saying. Hollywood have so much power and anything just to keep him in jail for a few months, years, whatever, but not for life, because they know, if we do this, you could be fine.
He definitely should have gotten more than 16 months. So
I don't know
whether he had to register as a sex offender or not. I don't remember. But the fact that he was able to pass a background check to get into Disney says something.
It does. It sends to everyone that people are greasing some. I think this is my opinion. This is not fact. This is my opinion. Hear this out, okay? People are either greasing or changing shit that they can get that could be illegal for comic folk like us, but not for people in power. Like saying forging even they say, well, yeah, we know what you did. We'll keep it a secret as long as you pay us, whatever, Bam.
Yeah. So, I actually just looked up some stuff on Brian Peck. He was actually an actor before he became an acting coach. And the last thing, he was actually, like, he got in the sweet life of Zach and Cody. Like, he goes from destroying some kid's life. Yeah, it says, despite his criminal record and registration as a sex offender, Brian Peck managed to gain employment in various minor roles across multiple gigs in the entertainment industry between 2006 and 2019. So, yeah, after his release from prison, he was hired to work on the Disney Channel teen sitcom The Sweet Life of Zach and Cody. He did voiceover work for 3 episodes, but was later fired after Disney Channel executives learned of his conviction, and his voice lines and on-screen credits were replaced. He was never on set nor interacted with the show's cast or crew. Okay, so at least he was never on set to interact with him. And I'm glad that after they learned of his conviction, they fired him. But they should have learned about his conviction before he even, like that should have been something that they should have known.
They should have known, but did not do.
Like this part really, it pisses me off because he was working with children before, sexually assaulted one, spent 16 months in prison, and then right back to working with, children again. And at least he never interacted with them, which is good. That is a good thing. He still shouldn't have been on that show.
He should, yeah. They should have done something more. They should have done more research, but they didn't. They were fools. This is why people hate Disney.
So let's go ahead and fast forward. Let's talk about Jeanette McCurdy.
And you might know her playing Sam on iCarly.
And Sam and Cat.
After my time.
So, yeah, I didn't know about Sam and Cat either until it was after my time. So, Jeanette McCurdy wrote a book called I'm Glad My Mother Died. It was a memoir. I have not read it yet, but I heard it's really good.
I need to try to read it too. I heard it's good
yeah.
too.
So, she was basically, that book is basically just about, how life was with her mother. She did mention Dan Schneider in her book, but she didn't mention him by name. She called him the creator. And she said, on the outside, he, in front of people, he was, this nice guy. But, behind the scenes, he was, this really mean guy. And so Jerry Trainer,
who played, you might know him. He played Crazy Steve on Drake and Josh.
He played Carly's brother on
Spencer, and I did some stuff. I found some videos. I don't know if it's. I think it's true, but I don't want to say it's 100% true. But there's parts where Spencer did try to protect.
Well, Jerry Trainer.
Jerry did try to protect the kids on the set because he knew there was something wrong with Schneider, and he did everything to protect them. Like if they want to go overtime, he would say, "No, let's go home."
Yeah, he would try to do funny stuff to take the focus off of the children and put it onto him.
Yes.
And I saw something similar on Facebook. If you want to keep talking about it, I can try to look for it real quick.
Yes,
what I found on Facebook.
And he tried to do some funny stuff. Hopefully they can, try to get Dan from doing this. Say, when they were, doing a little filming thing, Dan said, "Hey, what's up, cutie?" And he's like, "No, that's wrong." And There's some people say that Jerry was trying to stop Dan doing some stuff was the cause that he couldn't get more work until they reboot the iCarly series. And if that's true, he did the right thing to help those kids because he knew Dan was doing something not they're supposed to do. And
yeah, like, I don't understand how a parent can just sit there and just... Okay, found it.
Okay, found it.
It says, going onto TikTok and hearing how Jerry Trainer Spencer from iCarly used to protect his young co-stars from their creepy and abusive boss, Dan Schneider, by doing crazy things in order to take his attention away from them. Turning up on set on days he wasn't meant to be there to keep an eye on Dan, and even visiting sets of other shows to make sure the kids of those shows were okay. So he tried his best to protect the children. And it wasn't until the Me Too movement that everything started to come out about how Dan Schneider actually was.
And here's the thing.
Like, he wasn't a Harvey Weinstein, but what he has done had to come out around that time.
It was a little appropriate. And if you could say it, Jerry Trainer was like Nickelodeon's big brother, if you look at it. He was trying to protect these kids.
Yeah.
But besides that, like, even costume designers came out saying, you know, he would ask us to massage his head, give him a massage. And they say, I'm a costume designer. I don't do that. And they say, you better do it because you're going to get fired. And that's when I have to say, okay, that is inappropriate. In my opinion, if you want a massage, you hire a masseuse. That's what you do. You do not ask your female characters. You don't ask your female staff members to give you a massage. No, that is inappropriate 101 there in HR. Yeah.
But after the Me Too movement, everything came out, and so he is no longer working with Nickelodeon, which is good. He fucking needs to go to jail.
Needs to.
Probably won't happen, but he needs to. Brian Peck needs to be put the fuck down. I am dead serious. He needs to be put down.
Okay.
Because you do not do what you did. What he did is wrong, and yes, he needs to be put down. All pedophiles need to be put down.
Okay. Before we get into I want to make a disclaimer. Pedophiles should be punished, yes, but how you were saying it sounds like people should do the fucking purge and unalive them. So let's.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, do not do the purge, people. I'm a little afraid right now. If you don't hear me...
He needs to be put down.
Okay, maybe he needs to be on death row in prison in the legal expense.
No, because what's going to happen is if he had gone to prison for longer than he fucking should have, he wouldn't have been put on death row. He probably would have been out by now anyways.
Jules,
because they don't get enough time in prison. But what he did was wrong, and he needs to be put down. He needs to have his dick chopped off.
Okay.
They need to turn him into a eunuch is what they need to do.
Yeah, okay, but before you know all the stuff, all the threats you just said? You know you can get into trouble like that, right?
Oh, well. If I go to jail, we know it was because I made threats. And I'm not saying I'm going to do it, so I don't think I can get in trouble for it.
Yeah, but let's not.
They need to do it.
Let's try not.
Other people need to do it. How about that?
Okay, let's not try to force people. We're not a cult, so let's try not to make a cult-ish out of this crap. Okay?
He needs to face punishment for what he did, because 16 months was not enough. Oh. That's just a little over a year.
Yes.
For sexually assaulting somebody.
He needs to be put away forever. Not to get out of jail. No probation. Everything he done. He should be there. But right now, and I agree, he should do some punishment, but what you're saying is actually murder. Think about that.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to do it. Somebody might, but and I'm not saying you guys go out and do it.
Because I don't want this podcast to be...
We're not going to get canceled. If anything, we're not even going to get monetized because we're not even making any money off of this yet.
Well, but when we do, if we ever do, just remember, this could come biting us in the ass.
I doubt that. But
I'm just saying...
Anyways.
Putting that out there.
Well, all I'm saying is that Brian Peck just needs to be put down.
Okay.
I'm not saying that I'm going to do it, and I'm not saying that anybody else is going to do it. I'm just saying that, in general, he needs to be put down.
All right. For disclaimer, Brian Peck should be in jail forever or be on a certain punishment that should not be allowed, and he should just be put away forever, never getting out. And we advise, do not go find him, do not go kill him, and please remember, I agree with Jules' feelings, but here's the thing, I don't agree on murder. He needs to be put away, face his punishment, and I say this, do not go find and murder him. Don't not make this look like The Purge.
Other people will do that for us.
Please do not listen to her on that last part. Like I said, YouTube, I'm sorry what she said, and I'm going to say this. Do not go out and murder him. Just put him away in jail. That's all I'm saying.
I still stand by what I say.
I'm sorry for this, y'all.
Anyways, so, it all came to an end after Dan Schneider got caught doing what he was doing. And he is no longer working for Nickelodeon. I doubt he is doing anything. I don't know what he's doing now. I don't really fucking care because he's a creep. He needs to go to jail too. That is Quiet on Set.
Yes.
Sorry, I got a little heated about Brian Peck, but that is something that I am...
A little.
That is something that I am passionate about. I do not think that anybody should have to go through that.
No one should ever...
All of these children were failed by adults.
Thank you. That we can agree with. I agree with that.
A lot of these children had adults that failed them.
Right.
And I do like to see that Drake Bell, he does seem to be getting the help that he needs. He did get into some trouble. I'm not excusing that. Like, he did his time for that though.
But here's the thing. I read that he was talking to someone that was young. Mm-hmm. And here's the thing. He was only talking to them, but his lawyer told him you need to plead guilty of doing something inappropriate, though even the judge says we're really going with this. Yeah. So he did do time for that, even though he didn't really... I mean, granted, he probably shouldn't have been talking to her. No, he should have not done that. But it was just talking, and he did do his time for that. He did do time for driving under the influence. He has done his time, and he is working to become a better person. And it does look like that... It does show, there is a scene where he's walking away with his dad during the documentary. But it just seemed like that their relationship hasn't been the same since him getting fired from being Drake's manager. No. 15 years ago. Well, over 15 years ago. Because Drake and I are the same age. Yeah, and like I said, no one should ever go through that shit. No one. Yeah. And I get your feelings. And I really do.
I mean, as much as I dislike children, because, I mean, I really don't care for children. I mean, I do have nieces.
I have nephews.
I do have, friends who have children that I love. Whether I'll have children of my own, probably not. I really can't handle children, for long. But I do not think that those children should have gone through what they did. Because they're just children.
No.
And some of these children did have adults that failed them. And it's really sad because, these are adults that are supposed to protect them, and they just let this go. Just let it go on. They let Dan do his shit that he did. They let Brian Peck do his shit. They let that one guy that sent that girl that image. There was another guy that got sent to jail for touching another child.
And actually, there was one director who thought something they shouldn't. Even he knew something was wrong. He mentioned it to Dan or something. He got fired for it.
Yeah. So a lot of it just seemed like every time somebody would stand up for children, I'm so glad that Jerry Trainer did not get fired for standing up for those children or trying to take care of these children, because he seemed to be the only one that, outside of some of the parents, he seemed to be the only one that really cared about what was happening to them.
Yes.
But
he, in one way, he was like the studio's big brother.
Yeah.
And hopefully, Drake gets all the help he can, get through everything, and hopefully all the other kids who went through the whole abuse deal, hope they're having good lives, getting better, living one day at a time, and and hopefully we can all agree on certain things, disagree, but we all know the Hollywood business is fucked up. It hides dark secrets, and sometimes that dark needs to come to the light. If not, someone's going to get hurt in the end.
And it's going to be the people that can't really protect themselves.
And the truth is, and the one big truth, how much Hollywood is protecting people. Actually, are they protecting the ones who do the crime, or are they really trying to protect the people who are they even saying, oh, I'll help the innocent, or are they just helping the guilty?
Yeah.
How much greed can one man can take?
Yeah. So that is Quiet on Set. Subscribe, comment below if you've seen it. What are your views on it?
And
it opened up my eyes. I always knew that children acting or child acting, I always knew that it was rough, but I didn't realize how rough it was.
Yes. And like I said, with a disclaimer, Jules was a little heated under the moment. Please do not take what she said to a faint of heart. Take it as a grain of salt. And remember this, Brian Peck should be punished for his crime, should be behind bars, or chemically castrated at least. And remember, do not do anything that could put you behind bars.
Yeah. So, next week's hint is scratch that, reverse it.
And please.
So, we will be going back to more lighter topics.
Have a little fun.
We just thought that this was something that we should talk about. I mean, even though we are a couple weeks late, we did feel like that we were going to wait and talk about this next week, but we went ahead and we moved it up to this week.
Because we thought, we grew up on Nickelodeon, we grew up on everything there.
Mm-hmm.
We realized, seeing the truth how it is, we thought it'd be good to talk about it.
Yeah. So, like we said, subscribe, put it down in the comments below. Did you see it? What'd you think? All that type of stuff. So, we will talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.